Here to discuss is U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us tonight. So there was a lot of good economic news out there today, which I just cataloged. But the unemployment rate did edge up. Why?
Well, the participation rate went up too. So there were more people participating in the workforce, same number of jobs, the unemployment rate goes up, Laura.
And is this why the Fed is sending signals to the market that they may not be lowering interest rates, which seemed to be what took the market in part down at the latter part of the day?
Laura, I think there are a lot of signals coming from the Fed, and some of them are very confusing. You know, they said that they don't have data, and traditionally, if you don't have data, if you're flying blind, they've cut twice, and they've said that they're insurance cuts. So I would have thought that they would want to take out a third cut, more insurance, and also we know that under the Schumer shutdown that the economy got worse. So, I would believe that the Fed should be looking at the data and thinking things could, we don't know where things are. We've been cutting, and we should finish the cutting cycle or keep going with the cutting cycle because, again, the fourth quarter GDP will have taken a definite hit from the shutdown.
Well, when will young people who seem persistently rather pessimistic about the economy, for a variety of reasons, I think, when do you think they will begin to see the benefits of the Trump economic program?
Well, Laura, I was down in my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina, 2 Fridays ago, and Boeing, thanks to the president's trade deals and bringing back jobs to the U.S., Boeing is expanding their line there by 50%. They build the Dreamliner, and that's 1,000 jobs. And I was also up in Sumter, South Carolina, and I actually brought this to show you and your viewers today. This is the first rare earth magnet made in the United States in 25 years. It was made at a plant in Sumter, South Carolina, 800 construction jobs, 300 factory jobs, and the plant manager said that they could be going up to 3,000 jobs. And Laura, the great story there is many of those were laid off Caterpillar workers. But so I am very optimistic about the first, second, and accelerating into the third quarter in terms of growth. But I think what's important here, Laura, is we are going back to Trump-style growth, which is high growth, low inflation, which is just the opposite of the Biden years.
Well, and inflation has been cut by almost a half, I believe, since the height of the Biden era, which the media, conveniently forgets to report. Is it frustrating to you, given that it's only been 10 months? Vance asked for patience today in the economy, but is it frustrating that the polling on where things are now is where it is, or do you think the polls are overstating the pessimism? Because I know it can't make the president thrilled to see those numbers.
Well, the president, the whole administration is not thrilled to see those numbers, and as the vice president said today, we're all very confident that we are setting the table, or however you want to say it, setting the sails. And like I said, I am very confident about job growth and the momentum that we've got for next year. And I think what it is going to take is for people to see, the president has done, I keep saying peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals. So we did the one big beautiful bill in July, and we are seeing a CapEx boom thanks to that. Historically, capital expenditure is always followed by job growth. The peace deals, we are seeing a peace dividend from that, and I think there's a very, very good chance that if something happens with Russia, Ukraine, if something happens down in Venezuela, that we could really see oil prices go down even more. And oil and gasoline prices are down substantially under President Trump, and that is really the key to affordability is lower energy. So energy goes into food prices, and then, or the third part are the trade deals, and I think what we are going to see, just as we saw in the Boeing plant, in this rare earth magnets plant, we are going to see these trade deals turn into jobs. And look, the one thing we're not going to do is tell the American people they don't know what they're feeling like the Biden people did. You know, they said it was a vibe session. You don't realize how good you are. Shut up, move along. And we believe that the policies are right for the country and that we will see a substantial non-inflationary acceleration.
And Mr. Secretary, finally, Elon Musk yesterday was talking about how AI is going to change the entire landscape, economic landscape and employment landscape of America over the next decade. It's going to be like trying to explain the internet to people in the 50s, to explain to people now how their lives are going to change. This is what he said. Watch.
My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future.
Mr. Secretary, that sounds wild, and he's really, really smart. But what happens if generations of Americans don't have work? And is that a good thing?
Yeah, Laura, look, I think there's always going to be work. Historically, when you get productivity increases, more jobs always follow. And if you think about the jobs of today, and they won't be the jobs of tomorrow, and that's what I constantly say. President Trump is always thinking about the jobs of tomorrow. You know, we're not making buggy whips. We don't have elevator operators anymore. But you know, who would have thought that you'd be working in an Apple store? Who would have thought?
But he's saying work is basically not going to be necessary at all. I mean, it's going to be optional, and money's not going to matter. Do you agree with him?
Well, Laura, I was on Wall Street for 35 years, and I can tell you the key to any prediction is you can make the prediction, but never give the time frame. So, you know, I don't know whether this is a Star Trek kind of time frame. I don't know whether this is 10 or 15 years away. And you know, the problem with the future is it's very tough to predict.
Well, I look forward to seeing what happens in the next 6 months, especially with this economy. I think it's going to be extremely exciting. Mr. Secretary.
Laura, I think 2026 is going to be a great year. So yeah, you and I are in agreement.
Don't bet against America. No way, not now. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.